heartwarming that these to discuss issues of interest, to also engage government on key sectorial sectors of the economy, brainstorm. And I also understand that Kebbi Elders Forum also is going a notch further, that it is not only going to be a presentation of papers and discussion of such papers, but they look forward to a situation where a blueprint will come out of this interaction, so that the idea is that Kebbi State will move forward to the next level. I said somewhere in the paper that Kebbi has already celebrated 26 years as a state on the 27th of August 2025. And because the Kebbi Elders Forum is also trying to come up with a blueprint, I searched through the archives and I found that Kebbi State has living documents and the reports that are very important for the development of a blueprint that will guide the effort of the government of Kebbi State in its developmental strides. I know 2007 and 2015, Kebbi identified 3 sectors, namely education, health, and agriculture. And they were thoroughly investigated. And because for the purpose of this lecture, I'm only going to make reference to a document, and this is the document titled Report of the Committee on the Improvement and Development of Education in Kebbi State. This is the most comprehensive review of education in this state since the creation of the state. And also, Mr. Chairman, to my knowledge, there is no state in this country that has assembled people of substance to review education like Kebbi State. This report is available. And what I did actually was that before writing this paper, I visited Ministry for Basic and Secondary Education. I visited Ministry of Higher Education. I visited Basic Education Board. And I told them, are you aware of this report? If you are not aware of this report, I urge you to avail yourself the opportunity of going through this report so that it will guide the educational effort of Kebbi State. And I am not stopping at this point. We continue pursuing the ministries to avail themselves the opportunity of this report. It is very rich, very comprehensive, and also it reviews each and every sector of education because eventually the committee was divided into basic education subcommittee, secondary education subcommittee, and tertiary education subcommittee. And I think this will guide the effort of Kebbi State. Again, I also found something interesting which will also help in the development of Kebbi State. To the credit of Kebbi State, Mr. Chairman, they happen to be the only state also again in Nigeria who have demonstrated the 2004 basic education law passed by the National Assembly and assented by the President. In 2005, Kebbi State House Assembly domesticated Universal Basic Education Law 2004 and they call it Basic Education Law 2005, assented by the governor, in which provision was made to have committees on education at every local government and also at every district. As in 2023, there are 118 districts in Kebbi State. And each one of them, each of these had an education committee where members were drawn from all sectors of the economy, and also opinion leaders, religious leaders, women groups. And we went up, not further, 2018, when the governor actually, then governor of Kebbi State, Senator Prof Bagudo, also invited us as professors to head these local government education committees at local LTE level. And after him, Mr. Chairman, when Governor Mr. Chairman, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor who has just arrived, I was discussing about the involvement also of other stakeholders in education, like bringing the professors from the university to head local government education authority committees to drive education at the basic level. And that one actually, between 2018 and 2023, Kebbi State was among the 17 states that implemented basic education service delivery to all. It was competed among the 17 states that were tasked educationally disadvantaged. But I want to underscore the importance of injecting others into the education system of the state. The role of the professors was so significant that Kebbi State came number 1 out of the 17 states of the Federation in the implementation of BESDA. And that position, that performance was confirmed by the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics. Our program is that of sustaining what we have achieved and also build on what we have achieved. The federal government, in addition to declaring Kebbi State number 1, it attracted a reward of 7 billion naira. I recall when the current governor came, he invited me and asking me to advise him on how to, because that time I was the federal government, a consultant appointed by the federal government to advise Kebbi State on the successful implementation of that program. And the governor gave me the opportunity to draw professors from the university to come and head the LDE, which I did. And it worked very well. We came first. We attracted a reward of 7 billion. But I said that well, mine is to advise. What I would advise is that you reinvest this money because it was gotten from the federal government as a result of our performance on issues of out of school, issues of low literacy rate, and the system building. If you do that, and I understand that my interaction with the ministries indicated that the money is being reinvested at the education level. Mr. Chairman, what I did was to look at these 3 levels of education and how and in what way is basic education, secondary education, tertiary education going to help in the growth and development of Kebbi State. I found something very interesting when I was looking at the primary school enrollment in Kebbi State. I found out that the performance of Kebbi State government in terms of enrollment constituted 61%, and the private sector contributed 39%, meaning that the private sector participation in education in this state is very important, because without encouraging the private sector, what it meant was that about half a million children in Kebbi State would have been out of school, but they are found in private school, and that's one. Another thing is that there is general acceptance of the private schools for obvious reasons of maybe proper supervision, instruction, so on and so forth. But we are emphasizing public education simply because that is the education that is actually affordable to each and every Nigerian. So they will not relax, and because education is under concurrent regulation, it means that the challenge for the public school is to now work towards making the education system very, very qualitative so that it can compete with the private sector. It's not that because there are more qualified teachers in the private sector, but because there is an instrument of ensuring that something is done which is weak with the public schools and strong with the other systems. And I also found out that primary education has some 17,000 teachers at primary school level. And this translated into a ratio of 1 to 38, which is excellent, beautifully if you look at it. But that's the problem. The problem is very, very uneven distribution of teachers to the extent that there are so many redundant teachers in the urban towns and to the detriment of the schools in the rural areas. I am now a chairman of LEA in Bagudo local government, and we went around, there are schools with only one teacher. But now the challenge is the professors have been appointed to take care of these. We had the LTEs. The thing is that they have to go address this head on, how to look at the distribution of teachers and to do the painful thing. What is the painful thing? To take teachers where their services are needed. Of course, there are problems with that, and they are not unaware of that problem. But we can still, when we are equal stakeholders, look at it head on. And so I want to emphasize something very important which I found, because we are talking of the development of chemistry. I found out that as in 2017, there were some 17 colleges of science and technical education in the state. Especially because we inherited science and education board from Socio State. At the time it was done in Sokoto in 1980, it was the only experiment in this country. And that time it was not a ministry for science and technical education. It was just science and the technical education board. Kano studied the Sokoto experiment. They implemented it in Kano State, and at one time their special school was the best in this country that produced engineers, architects, doctors, all of them. We have different categories. But I found out that this, in 2016, in place of Science and Technical Education Board, Ministry for Higher Education was created. And what happened was that those 17 schools, as at 2017, with 22,915 students, 566 teachers, with a ratio of 1 to 40, which was excellent, that one was discontinued. And these 17 schools are now under the Ministry of Education. And when I look at our tertiary education, we find out Kebbi State has 6 tertiary institutions, with the exception of Adam Oki College Education and College of Advanced Legal Studies in Yauri. The other 4 are science-based institutions. Applied for the University of Science and Technology, Polytechnic in Dakingari, School of Nursing Science in Kebbi, School of Health Technology. Now, this requires a strong science base to really ensure that our students take their rightful places in this institution of learning in the state-owned tertiary institution. In addition to federal institutions where the state is expected to fit its quota. The way it is, by collapsing the technical schools and special science schools into mainstream ministry education, is not going to help what we have inherited by way of a pride of place for science and technical education. That was what was obtained from 1991 to 2017. And now it is no more. I tried to find out the position about the situation of this school. I could not lay my hands on that. But what I say here is that also what I found studying is the Polytechnic in Akingari. Yes, in 2017, Mr. Chairman, that Polytechnic had only 140 students with over 300 staffs. And in 2025, the student enrollment slightly increased to 161. And the implication is that the very existence of that polytechnic is threatened from the regulatory body. Because where you have 161 students, 28 males, and 133, it's a heavy investment, which we need to utilize to ensure that that polytechnic is completed. And also ensure that the mandate of polytechnic in terms of the engineering courses, which we are not talking of polytechnic offering diploma in audit and accounting and so on. Polytechnic should run programs in engineering and environmental science, design sciences. And I think the state government can look at this and see what they do. And the problem also I found with the JSS, which I would say to come up this is that junior secondary school is supposed to be comprehensive, complete, with clear articulation, their leadership, their structure, everything. What one finds is that level of education is supposed to be a radical shift between the old educational provision and the current educational provision. To make difference in the sense that those neglected subjects of vocational technical education that were neglected were infused into the broad curricular offering of the JSS. But now, what you find is that most 70% of the JSS are under the shade of senior secondary school. And the way we are going to find out the performance of Kebbi State in provision of basic education is by insulating JSS separate from the senior secondary school, because that is the level of education that has been guaranteed, and also the clear, universal, free, compulsory. And meaning that we are, every Nigerian child is expected to enjoy 10 years, like 10 years of education, primary, and junior secondary school. It is not happening now because the senior secondary is very clear in the National Social Education. It states that senior secondary school is for the Shuarians, for the Ebolians, and so on and so on. Meaning that you cannot pin down the government for not providing senior secondary education, but you can pin them down for not providing better education. And I find a very liberal policy of federal government with regard to better education. Now, federal government is constitutionally has no responsibility for better education. But the arrangement is that this basic education is jointly funded by the federal government, state government, and local government. And the requirement is that whatever amount of money the federal government puts, the state government should put equal amount to be able to access the fund with no string attached at all. No string attached. You work for yourself with half of the resources coming from the federal government. This is the most liberal financial arrangement I know. Because you have to give credit to federal government, because you cannot take the federal government to court for not providing basic education, but you can take state government to court for not providing basic education. But the track but for the Kebbi State, I found out that Kebbi State was able to access up to 2024. All the amount given by the federal government, Kebbi State has given the same amount up to 2024, which is very good. But I would still add, we are in 2025, and the last quarter of 2025, the governor side are here, that the Kebbi State should already, that counterfeit money has already been provided by the federal government. All it remains is for the Kebbi State government to put the equal amount to access 2025 matching grant. And by doing that, it will give basic education a boost. And I found also the scholarship. I want to just say for scholarship. Scholarship is given without any discrimination. No discrimination. You get scholarship. But we are finding a situation where federal state government is wasting a lot of time and effort and resources trying to send small kids to go and do degrees. The report of this committee was very clear. Federal and the state government was advised to de-emphasize sending students for first degree program outside the shores of this country. Simply because the students at this level are young, they are teenagers, and because of youthful exuberance, they are very susceptible to influences that could be injurious to their life. So many young ones were destroyed simply because they went somewhere, they were influenced by certain things which they felt is the right way to go. Rather, what we do, we can strengthen our own institutions. Our universities, we have also Federal University of Agriculture to Federal University of Kebbi, which is also science inclined. Right now, they are not offering art courses in terms of Hausa, Islamic studies, Arabic, and so on. It is in science based. In addition to our own Abdullahi Bagudo University, which is also a University of Science and Technology, a federal university, a state, federal polytechnic, state polytechnic. These are okay for us if we fund them properly. The student will get better education, and we are sure of what we are doing rather than sending them away. I know cases where students went there, they could not do the program. They did the program, and they were sent there on the areas of needs of Kebbi State, and a lot of money was spent. And also, I do see also a mechanism where after you are sponsored, you come back and the work for Kebbi State, you are made to sign a bond, which is very important, given the colossal amount of money spent on them. Because with the money you are going to sponsor one student anywhere outside this country, you can train 10 other students here in Nigeria. And I make also inquiry at Federal University alone, we have over 50 students studying medicine in Federal University who are indigenous of Kebbi State. It is better to help Federal University to train our medical doctors, to train our students for engineering, to train them for environmental sciences, building, architecture, and so on, rather than spending that money. And but I found that colossal amount of money was spent in education in Kebbi State, but there is no proper guidance, which has to do with the blueprint, which the eldest forum is trying to come out with. And I want to say that after all these deliberations, maybe there is a need for another committee to look at all what was discussed here and to come out with a curriculum in the economic sector and also in the social sector. Education is a social sector. Health is a social sector. But I want to say that people are going to do very, very little to come up with a blueprint on education with this report on education. And that's why I mentioned that my own chairman, Professor Bagudo, former minister, was also a member of this. In this committee, there are 8 other former commissioners. So maybe at that time, people are asking that the government had a lot of courage to assemble people, especially from the university, to tell them what education is all about. But I want to say that it has helped to turn around the fortunes of education in Kebbi State, the fortunes of health sector in Kebbi State, the fortunes of agriculture in Kebbi State. And I think those who have been asked to do this work are equally stakeholders. For this, as I'm talking, I'm not talking as an outsider. I am talking as an insider who is the chairman of our local government education authority. And I assess it. And I'm happy that I have that opportunity to serve in that capacity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.